In this lesson, we're going to look at both surface area and volume of spheres. First, make sure we understand what surface area is. When we're looking at the surface area of a shape, we're looking at the outside. Like if I were to paint a basketball, it's how much paint would it take? That's a surface area of that sphere. And then the volume would be like the air inside the basketball. So the volume is how much I can fill inside a sphere. So the formula for surface area, we're going to take 4 times pi, and we typically for pi, we're going to use 3.14, even though that's not the exact value for pi. You can also use the pi button on a calculator, and that will give you the exact value of pi. And sometimes it'll say, write your answer in terms of pi. So let's look at what that means. So if it says in terms of pi, or that's spelled pi. If you see that, what you're going to do is you're going to not multiply by pi. In your example would be, your answer might look like 72 pi. So you multiply all the other numbers, but you just don't multiply by the 3.14. You just multiply everything else, and then once you have the rest of the answer, then you bring your pi symbol to it, and then so if your answer was 72, then you've got 72 pi. So that's what it means when it says in terms of pi. So let's start looking at our examples. For numbers 1, 2, and 3, it gives us the radius of all these. And radius is going to go from the center of a sphere out to the side. In number 4, if we look at it, it gives us the diameter. That means it goes all the way across. So radius is half across, and then diameter is all the way across. So if you have diameter, you divide that by 2, and that will give you the radius. So we'll have to do that on number 4. Let's start with number 1, and let's just go ahead and do surface area on all 4 of these, and then we'll go back and do volume, just so we can practice the same thing repeatedly. So surface area formula, 4 times pi times a radius squared. So I'm just going to plug in that 4. I'm going to use parentheses to represent my multiplication instead of the dot for times, just because the dot can get confused with that decimal point. But either way is fine. So you're taking 4 times pi, which is 3.14, and then you're multiplying that times the radius squared. And the radius here is 6, so that's 6 squared. And you can do this a couple different ways. You can put this in your calculator one piece at a time, or you can put it in the calculator all at once. If you're using the Desmos calculator, it's really easy to do it all at once. If you're using just a regular calculator, I would say that I would do the squared first. So 6 squared is 36. And then on a regular calculator, you can just easily go across and multiply 4 times 3.14 times 36. And that's going to give us a surface area of 452.16. And then it doesn't give us a unit, so let's just make up a unit. Let's say that this was feet. So surface area would be feet squared. So just like when we practiced area of triangles and area of rectangles, area is going to be units squared. And we can add that up here. Surface area is units squared. So for example, feet squared. Volume is going to be units cubed for example, feet to the third, because cubed means to the third. Okay, so let's skip to number 2, and then we'll come back and do all the volumes. So on number 2 for surface area, again, that's 4 times pi times radius squared. So we have 4 times 3.14 times the radius here is 5, so 5 squared. And let's make this one inches just to change it up. So then in my calculator, I'm just going to take 4 times 3.14 times 5 squared, and we get 314. And again, we said this was inches, so it's going to be inches squared. On number 3 for surface area, again, is 4 times pi times the radius squared. So for this one, that's 4 times 3.14 times 7 squared. It gives us our radius this time is 7. Let's make this one meters this time. So in my calculator, I'm just going to do 4 times 3.14 times 7 squared, and we get 615.44, and we said this was meters, so meters squared. And for our last one, remember this one gives us the diameter is 18, and we said to find the radius we take the diameter and divide by 2. So then 18 divided by 2, the radius is going to be 9. And then to find the surface area again, we want 4 pi r squared. So for us, that's going to be 4 times 3.14 times 9 squared. So I'm just going to put that in the calculator. Times 4 times 3.4. And that's going to give us 1017.36. And let's make this one in, we'll go back to say feet again. So feet squared. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to find the volume of all these shapes. So let's go back to number 1 and we'll find the volume. Volume is 4/3 pi r to the third. And what I'm going to end up doing a lot is I'm going to think of this whole thing as a fraction if I look up here in the formulas. So on the numerator I have 4 pi r to the third, and in the denominator I've got 3 times 1 or 3. So depending on what calculator you're using, if you use a Desmos calculator, you can easily put in 4/3. If you're using a regular calculator, then it's easiest to do this way because I would take 4 times pi times the radius to the third, and I would divide that answer by 3. But either way, it's going to get you the same answer. So for our volume here, we're going to take 4/3 times 3.14 times our radius is 6, so 6 to the third power. And you really just have to plug it in, especially on the Desmos calculator, just like that. So I would type on the Desmos calculators 4/3 and then times 3.14 and then times 6 to the third power, and that's going to give us a volume of 904.32, and this was feet. It's going to be feet to the third power. Volume is going to be to the third or cubed. Number 2, 4/3 pi r to the third. So in this case, it's going to be 4/3 times 3.14 times 5 to the third. And I'm just going to plug that all into the calculator. Remember, you can use the fraction if you use a Desmos calculator. If you're using a regular calculator, you can just do everything else and then divide by 3. And we get 523.3 repeating. And this is going to be in inches cubed. Number 3 for the volume. I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in here. So we have 4/3 times 3.14 times, this case, our radius is 7, so 7 to the third. And then we multiply all that out in the calculator. And we get 1,436.03 if we round to the nearest hundredth. And this was meters, so meters to the third. And for our last one, so we already found our radius. Remember, we had to take the diameter and divide by 2. So we did 18 divided by 2 to get our radius of 9. So then for the volume, it's going to be 4/3 times 3.14 times 9 to the third. I'm going to put it all in the calculator again. And let's see, we get 4 times 3.14 times 9 to the third. Divide that by 3. We get 3,052.08 exactly. And this was in feet, so that's feet to the third power.